The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication, podcast publishing made easy, libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com.
Welcome to the Old Time Radio Network detective stories, continuing America's love affair with private eyes. We now go back to the early days of radio and our imaginations with our feature presentation.
Philip Odell, a young Irishman who's been working as an American agent, is on his way home to Dublin when he meets Heather McMara in London. She tells him that her brother Ricky has been drowned and that she suspects murder. She asks Odell to help her investigate. Rather reluctantly, he agrees, and later rings her up to report progress.
Hello, Heather?
Yes?
I would have rung you earlier, but Marilyn Peters was here.
Marilyn Peters? What did she want?
Well, after we left her last night, someone tried to break into her room. And Marilyn saw who it was.
Who?
That was that glamour girl in mink. The one Ricky saw in the beauty shop the day before he died.
What did Marilyn do?
Kept her door locked and then came round here to ask my advice. I told her to go to the cops, but she wouldn't.
Why not?
Maybe she knows more about Ricky's death than she cares to tell.
Then you must get her to tell.
You know, I had a feeling you were going to say that, Angel. And the fact is, I'm going to have a try. She's coming back here to the hotel after she finishes her work this evening. I thought it might be a good idea if you were here when she comes.
A very good idea. Marilyn Peters is a very good-looking woman.
Angel, how you misjudge me.
Odell, how I know you.
I spent the afternoon at a movie, but I didn't see much of the picture. I kept thinking about Ricky McMara and wondering why he had died. On the surface, it was an ordinary enough affair. McMara was a cheap little chiseler ready for any form of petty crime that might present itself. Characters like that get themselves knocked off frequently, which, if you like, is a rudimentary form of justice. But here there was something else. People like Christopher Hampton and Martin Sorrowby were involved, to say nothing of the expensive number in mink who kept flitting in and out like a highly scented shadow. These people weren't cheap or chiseling. Hampton was a rich man, a racehorse owner, and more than usually intelligent for a man of his type. Sorrowby was no fool either. He had risen to edit one of the world's leading newspapers entirely on his own efforts. Now, these two were way above McMara's class. Rogues they probably were, but they did it in champagne and silk. So how come McMara got himself tangled with them? And what happened so that it became necessary for someone to push him into the river? And then the lady in mink, where did she fit in? And Marilyn Peters, what was her angle? These questions kept chasing themselves around in my brain like a set of demented wasps, until it was time for me to get back to the hotel and to meet Marilyn and Heather. They were sitting in my room waiting for me, and when I opened the door, Marilyn Peters burst out.
I've seen her again, Mr. Odell.
Where?
Outside the shop. She was waiting for me, I'm sure. She was sitting beside the chauffeur. I recognized her by the mink coat. When I got into a taxi, she followed.
Did she follow you here?
No. I told the driver to drive round the side streets until we lost her. It wasn't very difficult in this fog.
That was smart of you.
I'm frightened. What am I going to do?
You won't go to the police?
No. Why are you looking at me like that? What are you thinking?
I'm wondering why you won't go to the cops.
I don't want to. Why? Do I have to give reasons for what I do?
No, but you came here to ask my advice. The sensible thing would be to take it.
There's no time. That woman means to kill me.
How do you know that?
I know.
Why should she want to kill you?
Let me try and supply an answer. Suppose Ricky had been carrying on an affair with two women at the same time. It wouldn't have been outside his range, not by a long way. One day, these two women find out, quite by chance. Woman number one goes into a beauty shop, and woman number two attends her. Ricky comes in. A terrific coincidence, maybe, but it could happen. The next day, Ricky is fished out of the river.
I didn't kill him. I loved him.
According to a character called Oscar Wilde, we always kill the one we love. An overstatement, possibly, but it disproves your point. You could have killed Ricky quite easily.
I didn't.
Likewise, the lady in mink could have killed him. But the odds are slightly on you, Miss Peters.
Why?
Because you get panic-stricken whenever someone suggests calling in the cops.
Might I make a suggestion?
Of course.
Why don't we leave Miss Peters alone for a while? Let her think it over. Obviously, she knows more than she's told us. If she stays here quietly for an hour or so, she might feel more like taking us into her confidence. What do you say to that, Miss Peters?
I'll do anything, except go back to that room in Sydney Street.
It'll be quite safe here in a big hotel. Come on, Philip. Let's go and get a breath of air.
In this fog?
It's lifting a little. We'll be back in about an hour, Miss Peters. Make yourself comfortable. Driver, will you take us to the White City?
No, miss, I won't.
Why? Haven't you got enough petrol?
No, it ain't that.
Well, the fog's lifted.
No, it ain't that either.
Well, what?
I make it a rule never to take a fare to a dog track.
You belong to an anti-gambling society, maybe.
I wish I did. No, mate. Dogs have already cost me 7 cabs, and I don't want to make it 8. I'll take you anywhere you like, but not to the White City.
Well, look, I'll make a deal with you. You wait outside with the flag down.
No. Oh, and the minute you've gone, I'll be out of this seat and in there putting me days taken on the first dog I see.
Look, we'll be inside only for about 10 minutes. We'll tell a policeman not to let you in if you like. Oh, go on, please.
Well, all right, I'll chance it. But if I loses this cab, you'll have to buy me another.
How long have you been playing the dogs, Angel?
Oh, we're not going to the White City to gamble.
Oh, aren't we?
No, I took the afternoon off and went in search of Hector O'Gorman.
Hector O'Gorman. Now, who's he?
The bookie Ricky used to work for.
Oh, yes. You know, I haven't mentioned it lately, but you're awfully pretty, Angel.
Am I?
Let's go somewhere where there's some nice, quiet music and talk about it, hmm?
No. And give me back my hand. We've got work to do. Oh, pay attention.
It's very difficult with that perfume you're wearing. What's it called?
Intrigue.
Yes. Last night it was Indiscretion. Have you got a fresh perfume for every day of the week?
Why not? A girl needs a daily change of personality to keep a fickle character like you interested. Mm-hmm. Oh, look, let's talk about O'Gorman.
Okay. Now, I take it we're going to the White City to see him.
How did you guess that?
Well, I'll tell you. I knew that excuse you gave Marilyn Peters was all baloney. When you said we were going to a dog track, it wasn't exactly difficult to connect the two. How did you find him, by the way?
I rang up his office.
You know, Heather, you have the makings of a great detective. I know more than one professional investigator who would never think of doing anything as simple as that.
Are you laughing at me?
Angel, what a suggestion.
Well, I never know with you. The thing I like about you is your sense of humor, but sometimes it scares me.
Here you are, White City. And don't forget to tell the coppers not to let me in.
Well, what's white about it? From up here, the people look like black ants.
Let's go down to the rails. A race is just starting. Oh, look, here comes the hare. Oh, I wish we had a bet. It seems silly to watch a race without having anything on it.
It seems silly to watch a race, period. Well, that didn't take long. Let's go and find O'Gorman. Are you Hector O'Gorman?
No. Who wants it?
I do.
Who are you?
A friend.
Okay. We'll find him up in the restaurant. Mr. O'Gorman, don't shout. The odds ain't that kind of a bookie.
Well. The English have class distinctions even when it comes to the way they lose money, have they? Come on, Heather. We'll try the restaurant.
Have you booked a table?
No. We don't want to eat. We want to see Mr. Hector O'Gorman.
Yes.
Can you show me his table?
Just a minute.
Why is everyone so suspicious in this place?
I don't know. I expect it's something to do with dog racing.
This way, please. He's in his private room.
Thank you.
You wanted to see me?
Maybe sit down.
Please do.
Let me introduce you. This is Miss McMara. I believe you knew her brother, Ricky.
Oh, yes. I heard about poor Ricky's death. It was a great shock to me. He was a good lad.
He used to work for you, didn't he, Mr. O'Gorman?
Well, he did a few odd jobs for me.
What sort of odd jobs?
I used him as a kind of contact man. He had charming manners. He got on well with people. He was very useful to me.
How much did you pay him?
Oh, I'm not sure. About a tenner a week.
Not bad for odd jobs.
What's your interest in this?
Miss McMara is anxious to find out as much as she can about her brother's friends, or what he was doing around about the time of his death. Stuff like that.
I'd be awfully obliged if you could help us, Mr. O'Gorman.
Well, I don't see that I can. My relationship with your brother was purely a business one.
Mr. O'Gorman, do you know any reason why Ricky McMara might have been murdered?
Murdered?
Yes, murdered.
But I heard he'd had an accident and fallen in the river.
No, Mr. O'Gorman. He was murdered.
Oh, dear.
So you see, Mr. O'Gorman, if you do know anything, you'd be well advised to tell us.
Are you from the police?
No, this is a private inquiry, but we're only anticipating the questions the police will ask when they get round to it.
Well, I've told you all I know. I got to know Ricky casually. Now and then he'd lay a bet with me. One day he told me he was broke and asked if I could give him a job. I liked his manner, and I thought he could be useful to me, so I took him on. That's all.
How often did you see him?
About once a week. I don't know what he did with his spare time or who his friends were.
Do you know if he made any money betting?
He may have done. A few quid here and there. Naturally, he got to hear things being around the racecourses.
Did he ever win any sizable amount, say, £300?
Not to my knowledge.
Look, Mr. O'Gorman, we were told on good authority that shortly after he began to work for you, McMara got into the money. He used to go around with large sums of cash, sometimes as much as £300 at a time. Have you any idea where he might have got it?
No. No idea at all.
Mr. O'Gorman, if you don't tell me the truth, you'll have to tell it to somebody. Most likely the police.
I've told you, I don't know how he got this money.
But you knew he had it?
Yes.
Good. Good, we're getting somewhere at last. You knew he had large sums. How did you know?
I cashed the checks for him.
I see. Who signed them?
I can't tell you that.
Why not?
I don't know who you are or what authority you have to ask me these questions. A man in my position can't be too careful about things like this, you know.
I'm on your side, Mr. O'Gorman. There won't be any kickbacks. All I want is an answer. Nothing else.
No, I'm sorry. I can't tell you.
Well, there are always a lot of nasty things involved in a killing, O'Gorman. A man would be well advised to keep out of one.
You're not suggesting I'm mixed up in this, are you?
Well, if I were a copper, I might think you were.
But you're not a policeman.
No. But I could keep the coppers off your neck.
How?
Well, sooner or later, I shall have to turn over what I know about this affair to the police. I know some of the boys at the yard. I worked with them when I was over here with the OSS. That could be helpful to you, Mr. O'Gorman.
In what way?
Well, I could go to them and say I got this information from a certain person. He doesn't want any more questions asked. As a favor to me, they'd respect that.
And you wouldn't bring my name into it?
No.
You promise?
Cross my heart.
All right, I'll tell you. Ricky cashed checks with me, about twice a month. They were for varying amounts. At first, 150, later, 300.
Whose checks?
2 different people. One lot was signed by Christopher Hampton, the racehorse owner.
And the other lot by Marson Sorrowby, the newspaper editor, that right?
Yes. Oh, you can see now why I hesitated to tell you. Hampton's an important man on the turf. It wouldn't do me any good to go meddling in his affairs.
Your discretion does you credit. All right, Heather. I think we've got all we came for. Thank you, Mr. O'Gorman, and good night. Now, where's that cabby? Oh, there he is. Hello. Hello there. Still in the cab?
Yes. Been wrestling with temptation all the while.
Who won?
Oh, I did. Had a couple of near shaves, though. Especially when I heard the crowd shouting 3 dog home. Oh, number 3 trap was always my favourite. Lost 3 of my cabs on that trap, I did. Always very partial to the number 3.
Well, as you've managed to wrest this cab back from the devil, how about taking us to the Valida Hotel?
Okay. I ain't come a minute too soon. If you'd been a bit longer, I'd have been in there, police or no police.
fog's getting thick again.
They don't have much fog in Ireland.
Oh, Odell, I'm sorry about that, really I am. But you can have your holiday as soon as this is over. The rate things are going now, you might be in Dublin tomorrow evening.
You think it'll be as soon as that, do you?
Well, we've seen O'Gorman and we've got Marilyn Peters. You've seen Hampton and Sorrowby. We've made wonderful progress in 24 hours, haven't we?
We've covered a lot of ground, but that isn't quite the same thing as making progress, is it? After all, we still don't know who killed Ricky or why, do we?
No, I suppose not. Philip? Why should Hampton and Sorrowby have given Ricky so much money?
Can't you guess?
Perhaps he was working for them, too?
At around $600 a month.
Does seem a bit excessive, doesn't it?
It does. It seems much more like blackmail to me.
Blackmail?
And why not? You said yourself that Ricky was no upright citizen.
Yes, but blackmail...
Hand, please. That's better. Now listen, Angel. We're liable to uncover a lot of dirt as this goes on. It's inevitable. There'll be things that won't make nice hearing. You must try and be impersonal about it.
I know. But he was my brother.
We'll get it over with as soon as possible. When we've got just a little more, I'll go to the cops and hand it all over to them.
Philip, if Ricky had been blackmailing Hampton and Sorrowby, that would give them a motive for killing him, wouldn't it?
It would. A strong motive.
Would you say they were capable of murder?
Angel, anyone's capable of murder given the right amount of pressure. But don't let's try and jump at conclusions. This is a complicated business. There are a lot of confusing things tied up in it. There's the dame in the mink coat. Obviously, she fits in somewhere, or else why should she be trying to bottle up Marilyn? And then, what's Marilyn's angle? Why is she so leery about going to the cops?
Yes, indeed.
You see, everyone's lying, Angel, lying on all cylinders. They always do in a case like this. Most of them lie because they don't want some pet skeleton uncovered by a murder investigation. But there's always one who lies because he wants to beat the hangman. That's the boy or girl we want, and we haven't got a line on him yet.
Well, I'll stop trying to think out the answers. You just tell me what you want me to do.
Well, right now you could turn your head just a little bit to the left. That's it. Now, just tilt the chin up a bit further. There. You know, this is the nicest investigation I ever had anything to do with.
Is it?
If I could be sure of getting a client as pretty as you, Heather, once or twice a month, I'd set up as a private dick tomorrow.
I think that's an insult.
Insult?
Yes. Suggesting that there might be enough women in England as pretty as me to keep you going at the rate of 2 a month. Of course there are. But you've no right to say it.
I'm sorry, Angel. It's working with the American Army that made me like this. They don't go in for the subtle approach where women are concerned. Well, here we are. Now for Marilyn Peters. I don't think it'll be too difficult to get her to talk. But I was wrong. It turned out to be impossible to get the truth out of Marilyn. For when we got up to my room, she had gone. Now, Marilyn was so darn scared, she must have had a very strong reason to desert the safety of my hotel room. So I went down to the switchboard to see if I could nose out any information. The operator was a grim-looking blonde with a great deal of eye black, but not much faith in mankind.
Valida Hotel. One moment, please. Did you want something, sir?
Yes, I'm Philip Odell, room 312. I want to know if there have been any calls put through to my room during the last hour.
Telephone messages are obtainable at the reception desk.
I know that, but I haven't been in my room for the past hour.
If the caller left a message, it'll be at the reception desk.
Look, could we forget the reception desk for a moment? When I went out an hour ago, there was someone in my room. She's not there now. What I'm trying to find out is, did anyone call her on the telephone? Do I make myself clear?
Perfectly.
Then maybe you'll be so kind as to tell me.
I can't.
Why not?
Because I've only just come on duty.
There must have been some easier way of finding that out. Who did you relieve? Was it Violet?
If you mean Miss Levine, the answer is yes.
Do you know where she is now?
In the staff dining hall having her supper.
Many thanks.
You're welcome. Valida Hotel. One moment, please.
Violet, could I have a word with you for a moment?
Mr. Odell, anything the matter?
I'm sorry to interrupt your supper. I'm trying to find out if there was a telephone call made to my room in the last hour. I asked your charming colleague, but we discovered after a verbal obstacle race that she didn't know.
Oh, yes, Mr. Odell, there was a call. Came through about 15 minutes after you went out with Miss McMara.
Who was it from, a man or a woman?
It was a woman's voice.
What did she say?
She asked to be connected with your room. I told her you'd just gone out, and she said it wasn't you she wanted, but Miss Peters, so I put her through.
What did she say to Miss Peters?
I don't know, Mr. Odell. It's my job to connect the caller and then get off the line.
I know, Violet, but what did she say? It's very important. I know you listen in. Come on now, tell me.
Well, she said she was speaking for you and told Miss Peters she was to come round to Sydney Street straight away. Miss Peters asked why, and she told her she'd find out when she got there. She said it was very urgent, and then she rang off. Afterwards, Miss Peters rang down for a cab. That was all.
Thank you, Violet. You're one in a million.
You won't give me away, will you?
No, of course not. I'll recommend to the management that you get a raise.
Whew, this fog is so thick I can hardly see a thing. Now, but this is Sydney Street, all right.
I hope you're right. Now, look, Heather. Here's the plan. They may still be watching Marilyn's house. And if they are, I want to see them at it. I want to get a close look at this dame in the mink coat if I can. So you walk slowly towards the house and keep looking round every few yards. If they see you, give them a chance to get a good look at your face. Take your time getting to the house.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to follow you up on the other side of the street. And when you get to the house, go up the steps, but don't ring the bell. Wait until I join you, okay?
Okay.
Good. Then off you go. She walked on slowly, pausing at each lamppost and looking round so that the sickly yellow light showed her face. She'd gone about 20 yards when a man came out of the doorway a little way ahead of me, crossed the street, and fell in behind her. She reached Marilyn's house and went up the steps. The man stopped and drew back into the fog. And then I started to cross the street. Well, I'd gone about 3 paces when I heard the sound of a fast-moving car and was blinded suddenly by a blaze of orange light. Hey, what the...
Philip! Philip, are you all right?
Give me a hand to get up, will you, Angel?
Are you all right?
Yes. Turned my ankle over a bit, that's all right. That's okay. I can stand on it. It's all right.
That car was driven straight at you.
I know. Damn nearly hit me, too.
Did you see who was driving it?
No, I didn't have time for anything like that.
Well, I did. It was the woman in the mink coat. I recognized her from Marilyn's description. She was lovely, all right.
Her habits aren't very lovely. Okay, let's go and see Marilyn.
Oh, good evening, Mrs. Cantaloupe. May we come in?
Oh, it's Miss McMara. Yes, of course. Come along in. Nasty night, isn't it? This fog puts me in mind of a graveyard, if you see what I mean.
It nearly put me into a graveyard. Is, Miss Peters here?
Yes, she came in about an hour ago, she did.
Oh, well, we'll go in then.
I think she has someone with her, a lady.
Oh, did you see this lady?
Yes, wearing a lovely fur coat she was. Think it was mink. It cost a packet, you could see that.
Did she have big blue eyes and black hair?
Yes. Oh, beautiful she was, like a film star.
But she can't be with Miss Peters now.
Why not?
I've just seen her outside in the street.
Oh, I thought I heard the front door go.
Did she arrive with Miss Peters?
Oh, no. She came in about half an hour later. Said Miss Peters was expecting her, so I let her go in.
You, didn't happen to overhear any of their conversation, did you?
I may be a landlady, Mr. Odell, but I'm no eavesdropper.
Of course not, Mrs. Cantaloupe.
Well, I'm glad you've come, Mr. Odell. I'm worried about Miss Peters, really worried.
Oh, why?
She's that cut up over Mr. Ricky, and she's the kind that'd do herself in.
Oh, I don't know, Mrs. Cantaloupe. Suicides aren't very numerous.
I've seen it before, Mr. Odell. Witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. Time I had a place over in Brixton. Young girl, about the same age as Miss Peters, but she went and got herself mixed up with a married man. And one morning we found her in bed with the gas on. Yes, we got gas fires here.
Well, let's go in and see her. Miss Peters? Miss Peters, it's Odell. Let me in.
Philip, you don't think she's...
I don't think anything. I'm going in. Now stand out of the way, Angel. And don't come in after me unless I tell you.
Oh, here. Here, what do you think you're doing?
Breaking the door down.
Oh, now look here. You're not going to break down my property.
If I don't do it, the police will. Now get out of the way, will you? Now wait here, both of you. Even though I couldn't see anything in the darkness of that room, I knew what was there. I could feel it through the pores of my skin. I found the light switch and thumbed it down. It was a depressing place, that room of Marilyn Peters. A ground floor front, as the landladies call it. A tall, crumbling room with damp stains everywhere. An ornamental fireplace that wasn't ornamental anymore. And a badly molting glass chandelier. A room for a sordid happening. And there had been a sordid happening here. I looked towards the corner where the low divan bed was. I didn't need to look twice. A dead body is unmistakable if you're used to seeing one. I went out again and pulled the door behind me.
Is she...
Yes.
Oh, I knew it. No. I knew it. Just like the young lady in Brixton.
No, Mrs. Cantaloupe, not like the young lady in Brixton. This wasn't suicide.
What? Oh, you mean murder?
Yes.
Oh, but it can't be. It can't. A murder in the house. I'll have to lower my rents. I'll have to close up.
Heather.
Oh.
Come on, Heather. We'll have to go to the police now.
That was O'Gorman of Islington, the second part of Lady in a Fog, a serial in 8 parts by Lester Powell, with Robert Beatty as Philip Odell. The part of Heather McMara was played by Sheila Manahan, Marilyn Peters by June Tobin, and Hector O'Gorman by David March. Other parts were played by members of the BBC Drama Repertory Company. Production by Martin C. Webster.